Hey, this is Alicia,
This is Melissa.
and this is Dark.
Dark. We
So,
really
Melissa,
got to get better at that.
we'll get better at it. You got a story to tell me today, and I'm really excited to hear
Ooh,
it.
I am too. This is a place that I've actually been about 3 times. I want to say 3 times. I've had an experience there once, and the more I think about it, the more I think it's a different ghost than I originally thought it was.
Mm, Gotcha.
So, today I'm going to be talking about Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, otherwise known as the Weston State Hospital.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Scary
Yes.
place.
Yes, it's a very scary place. It's a very beautiful place. I've been there twice on a camping trip that I take with my my best friend. We go on camping trips every year, and we tend to go to creepy haunted places and take pictures. So we've gone to Trans-Allegheny a couple times. So let's
Uh,
just jump right on into this.
oh yeah, yeah.
I'm
This
excited.
is gonna be good.
All right, so we're going to jump into the history of it. It was built in 1864 to 1881, and it's built in the Kirkbride plan, which means that it is staggered so that each wing can receive the maximum sunlight and air, and it's good for exercise and plan and good food. Because he believed that if you had all these things, that your mental health would get better. So he kind of, this was all before you had all of the medications. So he thought that if you had all the sunlight and all the air and all the good exercise and good food, you could get better.
Right.
So he made this building staggered like a bat wing, is
Isn't
what
that
it
kind of
looks like.
isn't that kind of the same thing that they did with Waverly? Like they set it
It's
up for
exactly
this.
what they did with Waverly. Waverly is also a Kirkbride plan.
That's what I thought.
Yes. It was built by Richard Andrews, and work was initially conducted by prison laborers and then later on brought in German and Irish stone masoners. And the Irish masoners actually etched in gargoyles
Oh
faces
wow.
around the edges to keep the bad spirits out and the good spirits in.
Huh.
Yes, little fun fact for you. And they look very creepy on the outside.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like anytime you
Walking
see
around.
gargoyles.
Well, and it's not your typical, like, what you think of gargoyles. They're just the faces, and they're put into the wall.
Okay, so
So
they're
it's
not
not
like
like your,
looming.
no, they're not like your typical statues. They're just the faces, and they're put into the walls.
Okay, cool.
Um, and then in 1861, construction was stalled due to the Civil War, and the building actually became barracks for the Union soldiers, and became, I think it was Camp Tyler,
Okay.
halfway through. So after the war was over, the first patients were admitted in October of 1864, where construction continued until 1881. So even though construction was still going, they started admitting people.
Gotta have that money in somehow.
Yeah, exactly. Originally designed to only house 250 people, the hospital held 717 in 1880, 1,661 in 1931, over 1,800 in 1949, and over 2,600 at its peak in the 1950s. So it actually
Yikes.
held 10 times its capacity by the
Ugh,
1950s.
that's that's a bit much for that. Well, for it to only hold was supposed to hold so many people, and then it just basically
250. It was supposed to
yeah.
hold 250, which is one person per room. And it actually ended up holding 4 to 5 people per room at this point in the 1950s and on. It would hold 4 to 5 people per room, made for one.
Sounds more like a prison cell than an actual like hospital.
Yes. And in 1949, the Charleston Gazette found poor sanitation. So people were sleeping on the floor naked.
Hmm.
Feces would be on the walls. There was grime on the windows. The paint was peeling. And they just
Hmm.
found that it was just no longer the pride that it should have been and the pride that it was.
Right, right.
Because of the open concept of the Kirkbride plan, they didn't really have, again, this was before they had air conditioner and heating, so people were sleeping naked on the floor when in the summer. They didn't have enough blankets during the winter.
Hmm.
Um, so sanitation and the standards of this place just went down real quick.
Yeah. Oof. That just I don't know, like I can't even imagine having to live in those conditions. I mean, you're already probably really upset that you're having to stay in this place, but then having to deal with these conditions where you feel like nobody cares. Like I can't even imagine how that felt.
Well, a lot of people didn't. Well, I'll get to that. I'll get to that in just a second.
Okay.
In the 1980s, there was a decline in population due to the changes in mental health. So this is when all of the medication started coming in, and people weren't just brought in because of bullshit reasons.
Right.
Which I'll get to some of the reasons in a second, because some of them are actually rather just comical. Um, So the place actually closed in May of 1994. So this place was in operation for 130 years.
Wow.
So from 1881 until 1994, this place was unoperational. I was alive when this place was still operational.
Yeah, me too. I think I was 14 at the time when they closed down.
So that honestly blew my mind. Um, a man named Joe Jordan bought the building for $1.5 million and I think it was 2007. And this place is 242,000 square feet, and that's just the building.
Hmm.
Now, here's the fun part. It's on 666 acres with 13 buildings.
Oh yeah, because that doesn't scream bad juju right there. The gargoyles are not gonna be able to protect anything that's on 666 acres with like 13 buildings. Somebody knew
600,
what they were doing there.
666 acres with 13 buildings.
That's insane.
And it was its own it's pretty much its own community in its heyday. It had its own dairy farm. It was all self-sufficient. So, and it was all ran by the inmates.
I mean, in theory, that's a good idea, but poorly executed from what you're telling me.
Oh, it was very poorly executed, but it had its potential to be something great.
Hmm.
But it went down really quickly. Um And then, fun fact, it was the largest hand-cut stone masonry in North America. And then it's the second in the world next to the Kremlin in Russia. So
Yeah,
there's a little
I forget about the fact that the Kremlin was hand carved.
there's a little fun fact for you. There have been around 20,000 deaths reported in this facility, and 2,000 people are buried on this property.
Recipe for all kinds of fucked up shit.
Add 666 acres
And 13 buildings.
and 13 buildings. And it's just going to be a recipe for a haunting. Because it is
Yeah.
said to be one of the most haunted, which a lot of places are said to be, quote unquote, the most haunted place in America. But this is, again, one of the most haunted places in America. Some
Yeah.
of the treatments that they did back in their heyday, they did aversion therapy for homosexuals,
Unfortunate.
which what they would do is they would poison their food and then show them homosexual images so that they would see these images, get sick, and start associating the two together.
They Pavloved them, in other words.
Yes, precisely. They would
Ugh.
Pavlov them. Chemical castration,
Oof.
hydrotherapy, electroshock therapy,
Which still goes on to this
bloodletting.
day, by the way.
Yes,
Electroshock therapy
yes, it
still
does.
goes on to this day.
Bloodletting.
Mm-hmm.
A thing called wet packing, which they would wrap patients in wet blankets and would leave them for days. So that when these blankets would dry, they would feel like they're suffocating. Because when something dries, it shrinks.
Well, there goes my claustrophobia.
Exactly. And then it would also feel like it was on fire because of how poorly these blankets were made at the time. Like, these weren't Weston blankets. These were the scratchy,
Like wool
really
blankets.
bad. Yes, really bad, poorly made blankets.
Ugh.
And then there were lobotomies
Mm-hmm.
by, and I say this in air quotes, by Dr. Walter Freeman, who performed 228 per week.
Yeah.
228 lobotomies per week. It was a 10-minute procedure, and he would take an ice pick type instrument and insert it in the eye about 5 centimeters with a hammer. And with a windshield motion, he would separate your frontal lobe from your thalamus. And it's said to end depression, bring calmness, and end violent outbursts. Well, of course it did. It scrambled your brain.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that he did that many per week because there's a story that I'm going to be talking about here within the next few weeks about former sinus surgeon Mark Weinberger.
Yes.
I don't know if you've heard of his story, but he basically was convicted of health fraud where he would claim to have done 16 surgeries in a week, which in our standards now is a lot. So I can't even imagine having done that many in a day.
Well, they said that he would just line them up in the hallway. And then in 10 minutes is actually giving him more time than needed. I've read sometimes it took 3 to 4 minutes per procedure just to tap it in, wiggle it around, and then they were out. And he would a lot of times do this without anesthesia. He would just knock them out with electroshock. A lot of them would be awake and do this horrendous thing to them. And a lot of them was done without consent. The most famous lobotomy performed without consent was Rosemary Kennedy. She was the third of 9 children of the Kennedys. When she was born, she was deprived of oxygen for 2 hours because her mother went into labor too quickly. And this was in the 1940s or 1950s. And the nurse told her to cross her legs so that she wouldn't be born yet. So she was stuck in a birth canal for 2 hours. So she was deprived of oxygen for 2 hours. And when she was 23, without the consent from his wife, Joe Kennedy took Rosemary to see Dr. Freeman and to have a lobotomy. And after that, she became permanently disabled, and they put her away in a institute in, I think it was Wisconsin, and just never talked about her again.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about episode of Lore. Shout out to Lore, really good podcast. You guys should go listen to it. If not, go
Awesome
watch it.
show.
Yeah, it's so good. They actually do, like you were talking about, an actual show on him, and it just blew my mind the stuff he got away with.
There was also a TV show. It's called American Experience, The Lobotomist, and it goes in depth in what he used to do. And I love horror movies. The gorier, the better. And it even had me cringing at because they actually show like one of his procedures,
Right.
like step by step what he did.
Yeah, I
And
just
ugh.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't imagine like sitting there knowing that. I mean, even though he used like the electroshock therapy to knock people out, and you said some people were still awake, like just the thought of seeing somebody coming to my eyeball with an ice pick, just
And
uh.
he did this to some people as young as 4 years old
Mm-hmm.
who just had like ADHD or they were daydreaming too much or things that now were just like he's just being a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And he would tell them, you know, come back. He'd tell the patients husbands or wives, or normally it's husbands. Let's be real. Normally it was husbands
Yeah, yeah,
or parents. Come back in an hour and they'll be good to go. And he would do this in his office.
right.
Just ugh, mm, mm. So reasons to be admitted. Let me tell you, I would be admitted so quickly. I I would be admitted so quickly. And one of the rules for being admitted was if someone dropped you off, they had to be the one to come pick you up. So if your fiance dropped you off and he died in the war or he died on the way home, you were stuck. No one else could come pick you up.
I would run away.
Like for real though, like I would figure out a way to be just gone.
Yeah, I would run away,
So, reasons to be admitted. You were kicked in the head by a horse,
which happens a lot.
which back in the day, okay. Immoral life.
What? Do you mean like, oh, this person didn't go to church on Sunday?
I suppose it just said immoral life.
That's what.
Imaginary woman trouble.
What?
Laziness.
Oh, I'd be fucked.
Oh no, no, no. This one we would be fucked. Novel reading.
Oh
Heaven
yeah.
forbid. Heaven forbid you women read your novel.
Oh god.
Asthma.
Oof.
Bad company.
This is the
I
band
would, or the song.
art song.
I would be thrown in really quickly. Superstition.
Oh yeah.
Oops.
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 I mean, they are
Um,
the ones that built the 666 acre.
exactly. On with 13 buildings. Fighting fire.
What?
Fighting fire. If you fought fire, you're going to the mental hospital.
Well, there goes my ex-husband.
There you go. Seduction and disappointment.
What? Hold up. Hold up.
Seduction and disappointment. If you try to seduce somebody and they are disappointment in it, off to the loony bin with you.
I love it.
Overtaxing mental powers.
Oh.
So if you're Magneto, watch out. Husband trouble.
Yeah, see that one right there, I'm not surprised because it is, the 30s and 40s, so that, yeah.
Mental excitement.
Oh, so you couldn't get too happy, in other words.
Couldn't get to. And the last two blow my mind. Tobacco and masturbation.
Together or separate?
I don't know. And the other one is 30 years of masturbation.
That's when you
And
need to call your doctor.
that's that's the little blue pill when you have an erection longer than 4 hours.
Speak to a doctor.
Speak to a doctor. So now it's on to what everyone's come here for, the ghost stories.
Yay, ghost stories.
Yay, ghost stories. And I've broken them down as well as I could.
Okay.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, it's got history, so I mean, obviously, it's gonna have a lot.
the first floor, because we're gonna go by floors for a minute.
Okay.
We have Miss Ruth. She was permanently confined to a feeder chair. And for those of y'all who don't know what a feeder chair is, it's kind of like a wheelchair that has a bar that goes across your lap so people can put your food down on it and you can eat.
Yeah.
A feeder chair. So in life and in death, she's aggressive towards men. She does not like the menfolk. She is known to poke, grab, and push men on tours.
Hmm.
Second floor, we have ghost soldiers crawling and running towards you. Orbs, cold spots, the normal.
Mm-hmm.
Gurneys rolling down the hallway. You can hear them. You can hear the creaking of the wheels. And you can see two figures hanging in the bathrooms.
Well,
On
that's
the
not creepy at all.
yeah, just apparently um two patients hung themselves in the bathroom, and you can still see it. You can still see them hanging.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, thank you.
On the third floor, there's a nurse who can be seen walking in between rooms, like checking on patients,
That's sweet of her.
and going to the nurse's station, because even in death, your clerical work is not done. That's
Especially
gotta
as a nurse.
suck. That's gotta suck. Okay? Wait a minute. That's gotta suck. Even in death, you still have to do your job.
That's like
That's
literal
gotta
hell right there.
that's still gotta suck.
Mm-hmm.
On the fourth floor, you have what is the creeper or the crawler. I've seen it called both things. And it's just a black mass that goes up the walls and will come up to you and try to crawl up you.
Uh, oh God. Oh God. Now you're bringing back some mental images that I do not need to see anymore. Mm.
Tell me that's not just the greatest thing. And I'll get to it in a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself. And known for possessions. There's a room that a couple of possessions have happened on the fourth
That
floor.
that actually doesn't surprise me, to be honest with you, especially with the history of this place.
A couple of EVPs. For those of you who don't know, it's electronic voice phenomenons that have gotten. They've gotten Get Out, Calm Down,
Hmm.
which never tell a person to calm down.
Because it doesn't work by any means.
It never works. I, like hello,
Hmm.
murdered, fuck you, and laughing in empty rooms.
I would totally be like, the fuck you ghost.
I would be too. I would be the what up ghost.
It's Brittany, bitch.
Wait, okay, so side note. I was watching Ghost Adventures the other day because I decided to give myself a break from doing research for a minute. I watched the Joe Exotic episode.
Oh God, that
And
episode.
they literally got someone going, "What up?" Just like that. And I was like, that'd be me as a ghost.
I'm glad to
That
know
would
that it's.
absolutely be me as a ghost. Just
I'm
what
s-
up?
I'm glad they're making it more realistic because I just can't see a ghost always being the proper 1800, 1900 ghost. You know, being
Oh
like,
yeah, no.
yeah, they'd have to eventually switch it over just a little bit.
I know. They caught an EVP going, what up? Alright, so there's a little girl. Her name is Lily. She's one that's been seen quite a bit.
Hmm.
She was born there because her mother's name was Gladys Ravenfield, which sounds like a Harry Potter house.
It does. It's a very pretty name.
Was raped by soldiers and driven mad by it.
Ooh.
Um, and she died there at the age of 9 years old. So she is just a little girl. She's seen in a little white dress. She's very nice. She'll hold your hand. She has her favorite guide, that tour guides, and she loves the flashlight game.
Oh, the yes and no flashlight game.
Yes, do you want to explain what the flashlight game is?
Oh, I love the flashlight game. So we've done this before in a couple places. So essentially, you turn a flashlight. It can be a mag light or anything that has like the little twisty turn on light for a flashlight, and you sit it on a flat surface, and you get it to the point where it's just almost on and almost off, so that it can be easily manipulated by a ghost. And you ask it questions, and you can say, turn on for yes, or turn off for no, that kind of thing. And it's a good way to get some contact with spirits if they can't seem to figure out how to do any of the other technology. It's a very primitive way of doing it, but it definitely does
It
its
definitely
diligence.
works.
Yeah, it does. It's very interesting to watch it happen. It's scary,
Um,
but it
and she
works.
has her own little room, and there's toys all in the room, and she's the nice little ghost
Yeah,
that runs around there.
that's
Um,
sweet.
there was a nurse that went missing for 2 months, and they found her dead body in an unused stairwell,
Oh, that's great.
which I'm trying to figure out how a nurse goes missing for 2 months and you don't use that stairwell, but that's just me.
I mean, this place is
Uh,
huge, though. I mean, there it
yes,
could very
it
well be.
is.
So, I mean, in my opinion, I think it's possible that somebody could go missing in there and you wouldn't know where to find them.
There is Frank and Larry, and they just like to turn lights on and off.
Oh, Frank
They'll
and
just
Larry.
Frank and Larry, they just like to turn their lights on and off. In room 697, a woman appears. She slams the door and locks it.
I mean, she just wants privacy.
Right after being there for so long, you just want your privacy.
Mm-hmm.
There's Jesse, who just appears as a solid figure,
Okay, that's gonna
and
be creepy. I'm sorry. Solid
he just
figures,
kind of
just
yeah, he just appears as a solid apparition.
mm, no, thank you.
And the apothecary, which is my favorite room. I have pictures of the apothecary. The door will slam open and shut just over and over and over. You don't see anybody. It just the door will just slam shut over and over again. A man got mad at another patient for snoring, which reminds me of my best friend on our camping trips. Um, Laid his mattress on top of him and suffocated him.
Oh my God.
And they put his body in a bathroom stall, and he wasn't found for 4 weeks.
I mean, there's been times I'm pretty sure you wanted to suffocate me for snoring. So I mean, there's
Oh, that's why
that.
I went to sleep. That's why I went to go sleep in the bathroom that one time. Okay,
Yeah, it's still that bad, by the way.
my bad. Um, there is Clarence, which this is the ghost I thought I had an experience with, but I think it ended up actually being the ghost I'm going to talk about next.
Okay.
Clarence was a Golden Gloves boxer. This is
Okay.
the picture that I sent you. The first picture I sent you, I said just wait till you hear the story about it.
Mm-hmm.
This was Clarence. He punched those indentions into his cell.
Oh my God.
Those are his knuckle imprints.
Oof.
He was in an isolation cell, ripped the door off the hinges, handed it to the nurse, and then returned to his room.
I'm sorry, but that's just great. That's like saying, you know what? Fuck you guys. I'm going back where I want to be.
Yeah, this is not my place. Rip off the door. Here you go, and go back.
Why does that
And
sound like
his
something that Dom's dad would do?
it does, doesn't it? Well, I was thinking the same thing. He also his cell when we went on a tour there. The Our tour guide told us don't go in this cell because it's a 50-50 shot. I'm not going to be able to get you out because it's a magnetized door. And if I can't get you out, there's a 50-50 shot one man in West Virginia can get you out.
God, no. That's no.
That's how locked up he was.
Mm,
And then
okay.
there's Dean. Dean is the one I think I had the experience with. Dean had a very, very tragic, very messed up death. Two patients strung him up over a pipe and would raise him up until he passed out. would bring him back down until he woke up, and they would repeat this process several times.
Hmm.
When they realized that did not kill him, they laid him on the ground underneath his bedpost of his bed, laid his head down, put the foot of the bed on his temple, and jumped on it till it went through his skull.
I feel like I was just about to throw up.
Yeah,
Oh
it was bad.
my
Um, this is the ghost I think I had an experience with because when we went, we were standing outside of Dean's room,
God. Hmm.
and Ob was having a conversation about lobotomies with the tour guide, and all of a sudden, I felt just despair and sadness, and I had a panic attack. And I walked back into Dean's room and just started crying
Yeah.
and shaking. And in the corner, there was a figure. Because again, I see things, I hear things, I feel things. There was a figure in the corner, and he was kind of balled up with his knees to his chest. And he was just sitting there.
Mm.
And I just said, I'm sorry, I have to go. And I walked out the door. And that was the end of my experience. As soon as I walked out the door, I was fine. It kind of messed me up for the rest of the day, but my panic attack went away. I had to kind of sit down and gather myself again, but the sadness and the despair went away.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking it was more Dean. I used to think it was Clarence, but I think it was Dean.
It's definitely a possibility, especially with all that despair and frustration.
He Dean was a mute, and he was a grown man known for violent outbursts. That's why he was on the violent men's ward. He was on Ward F.
Hmm.
And but he had the mentality of, I think they said, like an 8 or 9 year old. He was actually a very sweet guy. But he just had violent outbursts every once in a while. And the morning before he was killed, he was actually, him and another inmate or patient, I should say patient, not inmate. Another patient were actually sitting at the floor, on the floor at the feet of one of the nurses coloring.
That's just sad.
Is it not just like heartbreaking?
Mm,
And then
poor
this
guy.
tragic, just murder happened.
I
But
just,
and Dean's seen walking across the hallway from his room to the stairwell. I think it's a stairwell across the way, back and forth. And
yeah,
then there's, and I just learned this, the watching aftershocks the other day. His one of his murderers actually died a few years ago, and he's seen going into Dean's room every once in a while.
that's crazy that he would come back after all that time and haunt that one place in time. You know what I mean? Like, it
Is it
just,
not like just, yeah, he got released, and he recently, like recently within the last, I think, 5 years, died.
and went back there to haunt. That
It
is,
went back.
well, I mean, he spent so much time there. I mean, that was basically his life, you know? And they usually say you go back where, you've spent the most active parts of your life. And so that would make sense to me that he would go back.
Yeah, but to go back into that room
Yeah, that's
and
just,
torture Dean.
I feel bad for
And
him.
I've also heard him called Charlie, but I've heard him called Dean more, so I'm going with Dean.
Yeah,
But he's also known as Charlie.
gotcha.
Just throwing that out there. So this place has been on many a television show.
Hmm.
So we're going to start with Ghost Adventures.
Good old Zach.
Oh, Zach. They've gotten a disembodied scream from Ward C and a man that drags his leg in the lobotomy recovery area. Like they actually, Rebecca, who is the owner now, which is the guy Jordan, the guy who bought it back in 2007, it's his daughter. She runs it now. She actually has pictures of a guy dragging his leg in the lobotomy recovery room
Oh,
and
that's
showed
not
it to
creepy at
Zach.
all. Ugh.
In Destination Fear, they have people have been known to get scratches in Ward T and Ward F, where Dean is. There have been people have been known to get pressure around their neck, like they're being hung, which would make sense considering how Dean died. And then the one that tripped me out the most, they were two guys were in Ward F, two guys were on the other side of the building. Alex got a call from Tanner,
I remember this. Oh god.
and when they answered it, it was just the most gnarliest growls and screeches and everything else. And Tanner's phone was actually down at the equipment room, dead.
Yeah, that just.
And
Oh
he
my god.
ended up getting two phone calls from Tanner from Tanner, and Tanner's phone was dead. And there was the most gnarliest screeches and just almost sounding like a bed being
Yeah,
drugged
I can
is what
still
it sounded
hear
like
it
to me.
in my brain. Actually, that's how creepy it was. Like it stuck with me. Ugh. Yeah, no, that one's the between that one and I'm pretty sure you'll get to the other one, but oh man,
Paranormal Lockdown.
yes,
I'm talking to this about that one now. They
good.
walked into the Women's Auxiliary building, which is the oldest building on the property, and Nick automatically saw a figure standing behind them, or in front of them, I should say. Nick was going to sleep, and energy came up behind him, and then all of a sudden you hear a huge bang. You could hear a nurse walking up and down the hallway, and Katrina got a "shut up, bitch."
I'm sorry, that's just funny. I don't know why I find that funny, but it's just funny.
Yep, and there was a "shut up, bitch" to Katrina. And what was the one that got you?
Oh my god! So there was this scene where their cameraman was like, they had heard or felt something around them, I guess you can say, and I want to say that it was on the fourth floor. When you were talking
Oh, it
about
was
the
Ward
dude,
F.
oh yeah, the
It
dude.
was Ward F. The camera. I know exactly what you're talking about. He
Mm-hmm.
was trying to. Oh, that was Portals to Hell.
No,
I
that wasn't
thought.
Portal Town. No,
No, it was.
it was
No,
Paranormal
it was.
Lockdown.
It
Yeah.
was
Oh,
Paranormal Lockdown, and
because it was
behind them, it
Nick and
was like
Katrina.
large, snake looking
Humanoid
slug
figure. Yeah.
humanoid type thing behind them, and the camera is in 6K, so it picked it up really well, and you just watch it slither back into another room.
I'm gonna get a screenshot of it on my computer, and of course, obviously, I'm gonna give them credit, but I'm gonna take a picture of it so you guys can see it. It is. I've watched thousands of hours of different paranormal shows, and I guess in a way I'm kind of desensitized to it now on certain things, but that scene still makes my skin crawl. Like I can feel the goosebumps forming every time I think about that thing walking across that hallway. Like it just,
Yes,
oh god.
it's. I forgot to put that down there actually. Um,
Oh,
and Katrina just looks at the screen and goes, "What the fuck was that?"
yeah, she was like,
And again, I would be like, you know what? It's Nick. It's been fun,
I'm out
but it's time to go. Like, there's no way I would be sleeping there. Especially, she slept in Dean's room
by herself.
by herself. There's no way.
I give them
Absolutely no
credit
way.
for being able to do this kind of thing because there's just I couldn't do it. Mm-mm.
No. And then in Portals to Hell, there is a ghost named Jane Harvey. She was there in the 1890s, and she harmed herself. She died by suicide. She hung herself when she tied a bed sheet to the foot of the bed and then tied the other end to her neck and just leaned forward until she died.
Yeah, that is somebody who's willing to really take themselves out, because your body's system has an automatic um, willing to save yourself system. You don't
Yes,
want to die.
yes.
Like, your body refuses to allow you to die, and that includes your mental capacity. And for her to sit there and just choke herself out like that, that takes a lot of strength, mentally and physically, to be able to do
And
something like
yeah,
that.
nope. She just leaned forward until she died.
That's just crazy.
They had equipment issues like Jack's 3D scanner, brand new, would not work. I want to say Katrina's Ovilus was corrupted and would not work. Um, so they just had equipment issues the
Hmm.
entire time. And then they had a full blown conversation with Dean. They sat
Yeah.
on the floor and uh, said, make this. And I don't remember the equipment that they had off the top of my head now.
Was it like a
Uh,
geophone or something?
yes, that's exactly what it was. It was, break the break the field for a yes, leave it alone for no. And he actually got scared because they brought out a mask that one of his killers made, and he quit answering until they took it away.
Hmm.
And then he came back, and they had a full blown. I think Jack later on he said it like a full blown 30-minute conversation with Dean.
That's the one that
That
just breaks my heart the most out of all the stories, honestly.
and that is Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum.
It's, it's crazy to think that this kind of stuff went on and there was like no oversight, because like now, a lot of places,
There's
like mental health.
regulations.
Yeah, there's regulations, there's rules that they all have to follow, there's people that they have to answer to, and back then there just wasn't that
No, they would
kind of
just
thing.
throw 4 or 5 people in a room together, and it didn't matter if they were there because you didn't do the dishes right. That was one of the things I saw was just you didn't raise your kids right. You didn't do the dishes right. Your husband could just bring you.
Did you ever watch American Horror Story?
No.
Okay.
Asylum?
Yeah.
No. I could not get into it. I watched the first season,
Hmm.
and after that, I've been told I would like Coven
Oh, you would
for
love Coven, and also,
for reasons. For
yes,
reasons.
you would love Coven, and you would also love Apocalypse for reasons. Um, but yeah, like from my understanding, the guys who created American Horror Story took the story of Trans-Allegheny and turned it into
Yes.
part of it.
Yes.
The doctor that they have in there was actually based on Dr. Freeman.
I would have
Um,
to watch it, but I just could not get into American Horror Story.
I
Could
mean,
not do it.
Hotel's
Wouldn't be
good too,
prudent. Couldn't
which,
do it.
because I'm also going to be talking about the Cecil Hotel here soon. Um, that's like one of my favorite topics of discussion, because so much
Oh
bad
yeah,
shit went
so
down there.
much Richard Ramirez.
Richard Ramirez, the Black
God.
Dahlia, Lisa Lamb. Like, there's so many things that have happened in that hotel. All the suicides and just this craziness. But
We could both end up covering the Cecil Hotel, and it would make complete sense.
yeah, I mean, like, you could take like so many aspects of it, and I could take so many aspects of it, and there would be like an hour long, if not two-part series
Yes.
to the Cecil Hotel. There's just so much crap that happened there. But that's what they do, like with American Horror Story. They take like bits of things that have actually happened and turn it into horror stories, because I mean, seriously, that's what this is. Like, the ruin of humanity in these situations is what makes it so terrible. And my heart just goes out to this poor Dean guy, like,
Oh, he the tour guide told the story and actually picked up the bed and slammed it down, and I just looked at him like that was wrong.
yeah,
Like that's just disrespectful.
yeah, I just
Like
no.
I understand why he did it. And me and Ob are normally the only two on the tour guides. Luckily, we went on the criminally insane tour, and then we went on the hour-and-a-half long tour, which I would so recommend going to this place. Like, honestly, this is such a beautiful building. And we just kind of looked at each other. Like, I understand he was trying to scare us, but we were just like, dude, no.
Not right.
Just don't do that. Don't do that.
Because, I mean, it's probably, like, every time he does that, it's probably, like, Dean getting that feeling again of that
Yes.
his, probably super scared, bringing back all that
Like, you don't
feeling.
realize the reaction you're going to get from the ghosts and the spirits that are there, especially Dean. Like, they did on not paranormal, Portals to Hell. They brought in what they affectionately called their psychic bloodhound, Michelle.
Oh, I love Michelle.
And they brought her in, and she, like, Dean was crawling on the floor, and he's mute, and he's just this kid at heart, and, just be careful with this one. This one's very sensitive. So that's why they brought toys in, and they were like, hey, we're going to take the mask away now. We didn't mean to scare you. And as soon as they took the mask away, he came right back.
I mean, essentially, because of his mental capacity, you're basically working with a kid. Like, essentially, that's what he is.
Yes.
And, for them to, like, oh, yeah, that breaks my heart so much. Oh,
and
man.
I'm sure there are more stories that I haven't gone to yet. I haven't done the paranormal tour yet, which that's on my list.
Yeah. Well, there's so much things that have happened, and, I mean, it's, 100 years of...
130 years.
Yeah, 130 years of...
130 years of just mistreatment and abuse and neglect went on in that place.
Exactly. Oh, and there was one other thing that I whenever I was watching, I think it was Destination Fear. It may have been Paranormal Lockdown. I don't remember which one. But they were talking about the building itself, and you had mentioned that it was, hand carved stone, the quartz that is involved.
Theory.
Yeah.
Stone theory. And the stone theory is because I have it written down. I can't believe I did not say it. Stone theory is when stone can record hard or traumatic energy. And since Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum is built from sandstone and quartz crystal content, it can actually record all this traumatic abuse and just release it.
Exactly. That was the part that got me, because I'm like, that's actually like something, because because of us, we love our stones.
Stones and our crystals.
We love our stones and our crystals. And whenever I found out that it had, like, it was built out of sandstone and quartz, I was like, no wonder it's like a hotbed, because it does
limestone.
Yeah, those things keep records. Like, I mean, that's the reason why a lot of, like, certain caves, like when you start talking about, like, when we go into the Bell Witch Cave is made out of all limestone and quartz and all that. Yeah, it holds some energy. So when you start talking about buildings like that, yeah, it's no wonder it's recording everything in history for them. So
yes,
that was
Trans-Allegheny.
That was awesome. I appreciate you sharing that information, especially, there were some things that I didn't know about, like, what was it that you had said about, the boxer guy? Like, I had no idea. Yeah, that just...
Clarence. Oh, Clarence.
And I'll be putting those pictures up on our Instagram, so that way, everybody
and those
can take a look.
Those are my own personal pictures that I took.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've been there like 2 or 3 times. I really, really think you guys should go to this place. It is truly a magical place. It's the Disney World of haunted places.
It's a Disney World of paranormal.
It is.
But yeah, so that was awesome. I appreciate you doing all that research on that. I know that you had a lot of fun doing it.
I did. I always said when I got a podcast, that first thing I would talk about would be Trans-Allegheny.
Yeah, my first one was always the one about Misha Sam, which we've got a lot of good feedback on. I've had people reach out to me that have been local, saying, "Wow, I didn't know all this took place." And I was like, "Yeah, they kind of tried to keep a lot of that stuff under wraps because, reasons." But yeah, everybody was
Reasons and
pretty.
things.
Yeah, people were pretty. They were pretty interested in the fact, the master key thing was the thing that got a lot of people. Um, so I can see that being a kind of a scary thing. Speaking of the home front, this past, what is today? Saturday, so Thursday night, maybe even Friday night. No, today's Sunday. Gosh, where's my brain? Um, I think it was Friday night. Half of the square in Darlington burnt down.
Oh goodness.
Yeah,
Well,
like
shit.
yeah, it was pretty unexpected. Scary stuff there for a little bit. They had to call out firefighters from all over the counties and everything to come put fires out. So that was kind of creepy. But also on the home front, for next week. Next week we're going to be talking about another South Carolina thing. I'm really excited about this one because Bailey Sarian, love her so much. I actually asked her in a comment on one of her other videos to please cover this, and she did. And
Awesome.
yeah, so this is going to be something that I couldn't believe that she actually listened to me, that she actually covered it. She did a really good job with discussing it. And so I'm going to be talking about, and I'm going to go ahead and let you guys in on who it's going to be because nobody's ever heard of this guy before. So I want you guys to kind of get some information on it. We're going to be talking about South Carolina's own Donald Pee Wee Gaskins. He was a serial killer here in South Carolina, and yeah.
I was going to do a South Carolina cryptid, I guess you would call him.
Ooh.
I was, but there's not enough information on him. So I was gonna do the Polly Island Gray Man.
Oh, yes, you should, because there is a lot of information on him.
There's not though.
Well, I mean, there is and there isn't because
There's not.
there's a lot of
I've
history.
looked. It's a lot of history, but
Yeah.
there's not a lot of anything on him.
Well, what we can
And,
do is this then. Why don't we just put like a South Carolina cryptid thing together because there's so many things that have happened here in South Carolina with
oh,
cryptids.
there's so many South Carolina cryptids.
Yeah, I mean, we've
Y'all just
got,
don't understand. Y'all just don't understand North and South Carolina cryptids. We're a
yeah,
special breed.
I mean, we can go into like North Carolina and South Carolina cryptids because you can talk about like the coyote walkers of the Cherokee Nation. We could
Oh,
talk
I don't know
about,
about that.
yeah,
Ooh.
we can talk about the Black Cat Witch of South Carolina.
Oh yeah.
There's
I may just do a whole thing on North and South Carolina cryptids because it's there's not a lot of information, but there's enough if I put them all together.
exactly. There's just like so many things that happen because you got to think about it. When you start talking about the first 13 states of the United States, there's a lot of history here. Um, you've got not only just, I mean, we can even talk about, the Croatoan from North Carolina.
Oh yeah.
I mean, so there's so many things that have happened just in North Carolina, South Carolina that we can cover
Oh
because,
yeah, but no, I've already picked out my next topic.
oh, I'm excited. Yeah, but I found out some more information this weekend after talking with my kids about what my next topic was going to be, and I'm actually kind of in shock a little bit over it. But yeah, so we'll talk about that next weekend. I'm really excited. Look him up. He is a gnarly looking guy. He was only 5'2",
It still
which
got me beat.
still says a lot considering. Yeah, he's he's
He's a
family.
twisted little bastard.
Yeah, he's also family. So there's that.
He's a twisted little bastard.
Yeah. But that's gonna. I'm actually gonna go get the book from the library. It's all his biography, or it was written by two people. from South Carolina, and it goes really in depth on his crimes, everything he's done. So I'm going to be taking that, and also some of the documentaries and stuff. PBS did a full hour and a half documentary on him. So I'm going to be referencing that as well because it's really, really, really well done. But give a little bit of shout out to our listeners. Thank you so much. I
Oh my
cannot
God,
believe,
thank you.
like, I was in shock. Like, I keep sending every day when I go to look on our analytics, I keep sending Melissa like screenshots of our analytics. Look at this, look at this, look at this.
And
Those
our and shout out to all of our social media people. Like, it's growing so quickly.
yeah, that right there in
Like, I'm
itself is
checking
just
it like every 15 minutes because I'm turning into that person, apparently, that checks out their social media followers.
I mean, we just hit 530 all-time listens in a week.
Woo!
That's a lot.
That's
Like,
awesome.
I feel like I'm gonna cry. Like, I did not. I was thinking maybe 100. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
maybe 100 people. But that in itself is just
Let's
wow,
get
you
to a
guys.
1,000. Let's get to 1,000 next week.
I think we will. I think we will get to 1,000. We have people listening in from all over the world, which is so cool to me. Like the fact that we're not just hitting United States. I think we hit. Let me see here. The top countries we have: the United States, United Kingdom, India, Canada, Ireland, Germany, El Salvador, which is wow. France, Guatemala, and Israel. So we're hitting. Yeah,
Ow.
we're getting there. Our top city, though, shout out to Charlotte. And to
Shout
all
out to the
Melissa's friends.
hometown.
Shout out to all Melissa's friends in Charlotte.
I mean, I ain't got that many. But shout out to all y'all that are listening. Whoop whoop.
Thank you so much. Like, I just can't believe, like, that's blowing my mind. So we hope we're doing you guys proud. And like we said, we're on pretty much anywhere you can get your podcast, anywhere from, Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon. We just went live on Odyssey. So we're on iHeart, Deezer, Castbox, Listen Notes, Player FM, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, Radio Public, Stitcher, and TuneIn. So we
Yay,
have
Castbox! That's where I get mine.
we are running the gambit. I'm so excited that they, allowed us to be able to join in with them. Also, don't forget that we're on Instagram. Our Instagram is at Dark Podcast US. Same as our Twitter, which is at Dark Podcasts US. And you can find us on Facebook at Dark Podcasts US. So those are
We
our
try to make it
favorites.
simple.
Yeah, no, we did. The one thing we did change was our email because I made the email before I made everything else, and that is darkpodcastemail@gmail.com. So if you guys want to send us some stories, send us something
Send
that
us
you
in your spooky stories, and we'll do a listener story.
absolutely like. I love
Let's
listener
do
stories.
listener stories.
I love listening to other podcasters do them because they are just hilarious. You people are so funny. So yeah,
And
definitely
don't
send those.
and not just your creepy stories. Send in if you have true crime, cryptid. Send in whatever story you think we would enjoy.
Exactly. Anything dark related,
Yes.
that runs that cover. We will definitely love to take a look at it. So again, that is darkpodcastemail@gmail.com. And so we'll be you guys will be listening to this on a Tuesday. And then we're going to be recording next week's. We try to record on the weekends. And I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you.
We are so just elated. And
Blown away.
I hope you guys enjoyed Melissa's story. She loves doing research, and it's just
I do about
yeah.
creepy things. I'm very excited about my next topic.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear about it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. If you guys have any questions, concerns, comments, anything, please reach out to us and let us know. And
And don't forget to leave us a review.
yes, please leave us a review. That'll make
It
our
helps
day.
us out tremendously.
Yeah, to get us pushed out there a little bit more. So just, if you liked, like the podcast, leave us a review. So thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, try to stay out of the dark. Bye.
Bye!